His name was Bob. Chapter 8. Emotional Junk. You looked out, and in the flash of lightning saw Bob completely freaking out as he struggled to free his good leg, which had become trapped in the laces of one of your shoes. His eyes were tiny pinpricks of light, and he was panting and scrabbling at the shoelace completely wrapped around his foot. Another flash of light and boom had him growling and biting at the laces. "Hey, Bob, stop!" You rushed over, reaching over to untangle his leg, but he whipped around and bit you, hard. "Ow! Damn it!" you screamed, covering the bite on your right hand with your left, as Bob went back to trying to jerk his leg free and bite at the shoelaces again. Damn it, that hurt! And it felt like it was bleeding. But shit, you didn't have time to worry about that. At the rate he was going, if he didn't calm down, he was going to break his other leg. Thinking fast, you grabbed the blanket off the couch and threw it over Bob, who screamed and snarled and struggled to fling it off. Through the blanket, you managed to wrap your hand around his torso and use the other hand to pull the blanket back away from his face so he could breathe. "Calm down," you told him, realizing immediately afterward that telling a panicked person to calm down is essentially useless. Through the flashes of lightning, you could see his eye sockets screwed shut and his teeth grit tightly on the blanket as he struggled to push you off of him. He was hyperventilating. Damn it, and your hand was dripping blood. But you had to deal with Bob first. "It's okay, easy, easy. I'm going to unwrap your foot, but you've got to stop kicking. Stop it." He froze briefly enough for you to feel down in the dark to where his foot had become entrapped in the very top lace of your shoe. It was twisted around his foot. You carefully lifted the shoe and spun it around. By some miracle, you spun it in the correct direction, to untwist the lace as he jerked his foot free. "There, okay, you're okay. It's fine." Bob was still breathing unevenly, but he had stopped struggling. He was shaking. "You okay now?" The space between you all was once again lit by his tiny red glowing eyelights. You used the other end of the blanket to hold over your wound. Peroxide would take care of the blood stain later. What the fuck do you think?" he stammered at you through hiccuping breaths. You froze. You froze. Oh no. Shit. He was trembling and sniffling. Shit. You slowly freed him from the blanket, bracing yourself in case he tried to lash out again. He didn't. Carefully, you set him down on the couch beside you. The dim red lights from his eyes were blotted out now and again as he rubbed at them, his tiny fists rattling against his eye sockets. He was looking away from your face as you sat there uselessly. After a while, he slid off the cushion to go crawl under the couch. You could hear him sniffling between the sounds of thunder. Shit, was he crying? Oh man, this was not your area of expertise. You were garbage at consoling others. Gary and Dr. Rivera once had a fight a while back, and Gary was alone crying in the office. You had stumbled upon him and had just stood there, awkwardly at a loss for what to do or say at the time. Though Bob wasn't exactly human, was he? And the sad little noises he was making... you had to do something. At least try, even if you messed up or he freaked out and bit you again. The room was lit up by a bright flash again, followed by the booming of thunder. You could hear Bob crying quietly under the couch. God damn it. Tentatively, you lowered yourself to the floor so you could lay next to the couch and peek under it. You could see the trembling outline of Bob's back facing you as the red glow from his eyes lit up the space somewhat around him. Slowly, you reached out a finger and kind of awkwardly rested it along his scapulas. He tensed at first, but then slowly relaxed, letting out a shaky sigh. Okay. He leaned forward, letting you gently sort of pat his back with your finger. Okay. This was okay. Kind of awkward, but okay. And it seemed to be helping? Maybe? After a while, his breathing evened out, and he only gave a slight jump when there was thunder. Through the flashes of lightning, you could see that it looked like your hand had stopped bleeding. Also, luckily, it seemed the storm was a quick-moving one, as the flashes of lightning were coming less and less frequently. It even sounded like the rain was starting to let up. Bob mumbled something. You asked. Tiny red pupils turned to face you as you dropped your hand, allowing him to turn toward you. Bob looked at you as you rested your head on your other hand, peering under the sofa.
I said, why?
He said. What? What was he talking about?
Why? Why are you doing this?
He sounded completely at a loss. I thought maybe it would help. Should I not? Were you making him uncomfortable?
No.
Oh. Ugh, you really were crap at consoling others. You started to move your hand away, but he stopped you, grabbing your finger with both hands.
No, wait, no. As in, I mean, this is fine.
Okay. So what exactly was he asking? Now you were really confused. He gave a frustrated sigh as he held your finger, staring down at your hand. Penny for your thoughts? You tried?
My thoughts are worth more than that. I think the number was $10,000,
he mumbled. Nope, I told you, at least double that, you said, earning a small watery laugh from him. That's a terrible bitty laugh. Sorry. At least he was starting to sound more like himself again. He turned his head to the side, the light from his eyes casting shadows under the couch.
Yeah, but I'm getting the impression you probably wouldn't even sell me for that. I'm not sure why, though. Why you're being so nice to me after I just caused you trouble. That's all I've managed to do since you took me in.
Oh, so that's what he meant. Ah, jeez. Did you really have to spell it out for him? Well, certainly not because I care about you or anything. There was another pause as light filled the room, briefly followed several seconds later by distant rumbling.
But it doesn't make any sense, he continued. I can't do anything but be a burden to you. Ever since you kind of got stuck with me, I've done nothing but make your life more difficult. I broke your stuff, got you yelled at work. Ugh, I even bit you, your hand.
His little eyelights focused on your hand as he reached for the bite wound with one of his hands, but hesitated. He was getting upset again. My hand is fine. Look, I'm crap at all this emotional junk. You're not a burden to me. I don't have a lot of friends. Pretty much just the people I work with. It's selfish, but I guess I don't hate the fact that you live here. I don't dislike you, okay? Maybe having you around is not terrible, or something. Out of the corner of your eye, since you couldn't really make eye contact at that point, you saw two bright red lights focus toward your face before darting away. In a quiet voice, he muttered,
I kind of don't dislike living with you either. And I guess you're okay too.
He briefly gave your finger a squeeze as he kept holding it. Some awkward silence passed between the two of you before you let out a laugh. Pfft, did we just have a moment?
Shut up,
he grumbled, hugging your finger to himself and burying his face into your knuckle. Ha, he was definitely feeling warmer again. Seemed his moods had an effect on his temperature. And you were finding out he was a total softy. Unlike you, of course. You reached out with your other hand and rubbed at the top of his skull, causing him to grumble into your knuckle. He didn't sound convincingly upset. Bob's point of view. Bob sat on your chest, watching your face as you slept. The power had come back on shortly after you passed out on the couch. He had already found you a Band-Aid and had turned out the lights. Luckily, it seemed he had enough weight and momentum that when he launched himself at the switches, he managed to turn them off, even with only one good leg. He was pretty thankful you hadn't woken up to see that, as you probably would have laughed at him. He was also thankful you were a heavy sleeper. Guess he wouldn't have to use the bullshit excuse that he was sitting on you to wake you up so he could have his bed back. Truth was, he just wanted to be close to you. You made him feel warm. Safe. Emotional junk, as you called it. Heh. He smiled as you started to snore lightly. Heh. He could read between the lines from what you said earlier. You liked him. Considered him a friend. Was glad he was living with you. Basically felt the same way he did about you. And he really did like you. You were the first The only human he liked. Ugh, emotional junk. You were turning him into a sap of a skeleton that got attached too quickly. Ugh. He'd make sure to move off of you before you woke up. Chapter 9. Sharing. Chapter 9. Sharing. You woke up before your phone alarm went off. Seemed you had fallen asleep on the couch. The den was dimly lit by the approaching dawn. You yawned. Too early. Way too early. Seemed Bob had found a Band-Aid at some point, as you now had one covering the wound on your hand. Ugh, you probably should have washed that the previous night. Oh well. You'd had worse bites from your patients at work, and the wicked scars on your arms to prove it. The aforementioned Biddy was sound asleep, face down on your chest, his hands loosely clung in your pajama shirt. Oh man, you didn't know how you felt about that. On the one hand, he was pretty adorable, making little, almost snoring sounds while he slept. Why was he even snoring if he didn't have the anatomy for it? So cute. On the other hand, essentially your tiny roommate had fallen asleep on you, which was kind of weird to think about. Best not to. You stretched a little, pushing your hair out of your face and doing your best not to move too much, lest you wake Bob. The hum of the AC let you know the power had come back on at some point during the night. Funny the light wasn't on. Had Bob turned it off when he went to get the Band-Aid? And then just fell asleep on you? Strange little guy. Stretching more, you reached down and grabbed your phone, hitting the side button to check the time. Definitely too early to be awake. Bob stirred, and you glanced down at him as he frowned a little and tightened his grip on your pajama shirt before making little snoring sounds again. Poor guy, he even frowned in his sleep. Guess he did have quite a bit to frown about. Add storm phobia to his list of things that upset him. You know, besides the whole genocide thing by the company that made him. That and apparently being trapped kind of made him panic. You'd seen it twice now. Once when he was being restrained at the vet hospital, and then again during the storm. Plus, he worried about being a burden. Being alone. Some of those feelings were quite relatable. You really wished he would just talk about these things with you, instead of you having to figure it out on your own. You really were crap at all that. Well, not that you couldn't figure stuff out. Eventually. If you tried. Anyway, okay, first problem. You had to work, and it was decided that work wasn't safe for Bob, but he didn't want to be alone in the apartment. Probably part of him was afraid of being trapped there if something were to happen to you, or the apartment were to catch on fire or something. You might have an idea on how to solve that issue.
You know you mumble things out loud when you're thinking sometimes,
a sleepy voice said from your chest. Well, someone was awake now. Did you know sleeping on your roommate is kind of weird and creepy? You looked down at him, amused. He blinked at you, seemingly becoming aware of his surroundings. His eye sockets widened and his face took on a bit of a red hue.
You're the one who fell asleep on my bed, so, it's not my fault you take up so much room, and, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going back to sleep. Deal with it.
He was frowning and blushing profusely now, but made a show of stretching and getting more comfortable, turning on his side, facing away from you, still on your chest. Pfft, so he wasn't planning on moving off? You mentally shrugged, yawning again. His warmth and eventual snores started coaxing you back to sleep. It seemed like only a few minutes had passed when your phone alarm started going off. You and Bob groaned simultaneously as you reached over to silence the accursed thing. All right, you little creeper, move. I've got to get up, you sighed as you started to sit up.
No, 5 more minutes,
he grumbled, and then whined when you ignored his protests. Sitting up, you carefully peeled him off your chest to hold in your hand. He reached up to rub his eye sockets, glaring at you. I don't know what you're so grumpy about. You can just go back to sleep if you want. I've got to work. You set him down on the couch as he straightened his twisted shirt.
Yeah, but I was comfy. You're comfy,"
he mumbled after you as you went to go shower and change. After finishing your morning routine and changing into your oh-so-flattering scrubs, you went out to find Bob in the kitchen, gritting his teeth and straining to open the fridge. Well, at least it looked like he hadn't hurt his good foot in the shoelace incident. As a matter of fact, he was putting weight on his bad leg now, and not wincing. Huh. My dogs are barking. I should probably figure out what they're barking at. God damn it, dogs. To the surprise of absolutely no one, they were barking at nothing. As a matter of fact, he was putting weight on his bad leg now, and not wincing. Huh. And he hadn't noticed you yet as he continued to struggle with the door. You cleared your throat. Still didn't notice. Bob, is there a reason you're... He squeaked, like actually squeaked, and stumbled, almost falling backwards. Eep! You... What's a good squeak noise for Bob? You would have laughed had you not thought about the fact that he was probably still a little jumpy from the previous night. That, and he now looked super embarrassed, blushing and scratching at the back of his neck as he looked at the ground.
I thought maybe I could try to make us breakfast. Guess that didn't really work out.
Aw. That was really nice of you to try, but really, you don't have to do stuff like that. You opened the fridge, getting out some apples and the last of the bread to make some toast. Not that there were many breakfast options. Gah, next paycheck couldn't come soon enough. He did his dash/blur thing up to the counter and sat down, watching sadly as you cut up apples.
I wanted to help, he pouted. You know, do something useful.
You are helpful. Thanks for the Band-Aid and for turning off the light last night. That really was helpful. You smiled at him. He frowned, crossing his arms.
Don't patronize me. I was anything but helpful last night, and you know it.
You sighed, setting cut-up apple squares on a napkin beside him while you plated your own apple slices, and moved your plate well out of reach of Bob. Want to talk about last night? He paused, fiddling with an apple square before it disappeared into his mouth.
No.
Oh well. It was worth a try. All right, then let's talk about today. Before I go to work, I'm going to set you up with an account that'll let you send messages to my phone from the computer. That way, you can reach me right away if you need me. If you want, I can leave the back bedroom window cracked open just enough in case you need to get out for any reason. The little lock thingies should keep any burglars or whatever from opening the window all the way and getting in. He was looking downright dejected now, ignoring the rest of his breakfast. The toast popped up, making him jump. Was he really going to be okay on his own today? You must have been giving him an uncertain look, because he looked up at you, sighing.
I'll be fine. Seriously, don't worry about it. Go. Work.
Well, what choice did you have, really? The first day you left Bob at home, he did message you soon after you got to work, and you responded as promised. Over the next few days, he was getting more and more talkative in his messages. Seemed he was adjusting to the fact that he would be okay on his own and you would come back. Or whatever his deal was. You were starting to see that he was maybe a bit clingy. You pretended not to notice when he snuck into your room at night and slept on your pillow next to your head, and then left just before your alarm went off. A little creepy, maybe, but it seemed to make him feel better. As a matter of fact, he was now actually walking around on his previously broken leg and had taken the splint off. Odd it had healed so quickly in just the last week. Maybe he was serious when he said he just needed food and rest to heal. Though the food they had been eating lately... ramen can hardly be called food. At least he seemed to like the addition of mustard to his, gross as that was. Curious, you read up a little on Bitty metabolism. Well, you read what little bit existed on it anyway. No one was quite sure how Bitties functioned, seeing as most sources considered them artificial life forms. Seemed that while they could heal their bones, they didn't have blood or a circulatory system. Their bone cells derived energy from their soul, and the stronger their soul, the faster they healed. Essentially, Bitty's bones were hollow, save for their glowing soul energy. In fact, their glowing eyes literally glowed because of them being full of soul energy. Seemed they could turn to dust if injured and too much soul energy leaked out of their bodies. Geez, Bob was lucky the crack in his tibia must not have been bad enough to leak soul energy. Or maybe it had, and had stopped before he was brought to you? Ugh, he was also lucky it hadn't gotten worse with all his running and jumping around. Work was exceedingly slow and boring on Friday. The 2 cat neuter surgeries went by quickly, and appointments didn't start until 1. And Dr. Rivera didn't need help making callbacks and chatting up on his chart notes, giving you plenty of time to do inventory stuff and restocking, though you really didn't need, 2 hours to do all that. You hadn't heard from Bob yet. That had to be a good thing, right? That meant he was finally finding things to entertain himself, right? You turned off the screen of your phone, stuffing it in your pocket. No, you wouldn't be that worrying friend and message him just to make sure he was okay. If he needed you, he knew how to contact you. About 15 minutes later, you conceded the fact that you were that worrying friend, as you hit send on the message from your phone. Whatever. Maybe he'd see it later and laugh at you or something. At least he'd be happy. You. How's it going? Not destroying things, I hope. You got a response within a minute. Bob.
Well, I've only burned half the apartment down, so don't worry. Not like it made much of a difference anyway, crappy as your apartment is. Do you even ever clean? It's as bad as your car.
Smirking, you sent your response right away, too. You. Were you just sitting at the computer waiting for me to message you? Several minutes passed. You went to restock the syringes in the drawers. You felt your phone vibrate. Bob.
Yeah, right.
Just as you read that message, another one showed up. Bob.
Like I don't have anything better to do.
And another. Bob.
I do. I'm cleaning, right after I send this message. Well, that and I might finish this thing I'm reading.
You. Thing you're reading? Bob.
Heh, yeah. So I went through your browser history and found these stories you've been reading about the characters in your games and got curious.
Oh no. You. ...
Bob. I was kind of confused at first because I didn't remember stuff like that going on in that fighting game you're always playing.
You. Oh, god damn it.
Bob. Heh. Though, I gotta say, I can see the entertainment value. There's some pretty interesting dialogue here.
You.
Bob.
No, don't.
Bob. As the sun set over the mountain, she gently uppercutted his face, sending forth a sweaty spray that sparkled like so many stars in the fading orange light.
You. Oh my god, stop!
Bob. Hehehe. All right, fine. I had a joke about this, but I doubt you'd get the punch line.
You. Seriously? Was that a pun?
Bob. Nah, no way. I don't do puns. I kicked that habit a while ago.
You. Do you want me to come fight you when I get home?
Bob. Yes, come fight me!
You shook your head as you put your phone away.
Ugh.
You really should go clear your browser history. Not that you were embarrassed by the stories you read. There was some pretty good stuff out there. Just maybe you didn't want to share everything with your roommate. Sigh. This was your life now. Privacy, gone. Replaced by a tiny, snooping creeper edgelord skeleton. Jeez, why were you smiling? Chapter 10. Rubber Band. 2 laceration repairs, a cat abscess, an aggressive Dalmatian that needed a nail trim, and 5 overly talkative annual vaccine appointments later, it was finally time to go home. Dr. Rivera barely grunted a "good night" at you as you left. His glasses were even askew, and he wasn't bothering to fix them as he typed. Gary had gone out to get them some Chinese food for dinner, knowing they'd both probably be there late as Dr. Rivera caught up on his chart notes for the day. Needless to say, you were exhausted by the time you dragged yourself from your car to your front door. Hey, on the bright side, you got paid. Oddly, when you opened the door, Bob wasn't there waiting to comment on your trashy appearance or dog smell per usual. Was he sleeping? You were getting home kind of late that night. Was he maybe mad at you for getting home so late? Hey, Bob, I'm home, you called out as you set your bag down. Silence. Where was that little creeper? As you rounded the couch, it hit you. No, like something literally hit you. In the shoulder. What the hell was that? Wet toilet paper? What the... Another wad hit you in the face, followed by peals of evil high-pitched laughter coming from under the coffee table. Gross. You peeled it off your face to glare down at the source of the assault. Seriously, what the hell was he thinking? You had been at work all day, you were tired, and you come home to this? Bob had linked several rubber bands together and wrapped them around the coffee table legs. Where did he even find so many rubber bands? And was using the device as a wet toilet paper slingshot. He grinned evilly as he braced himself, leaning back to let another toilet paper wad fly. Oh, hell no! You dodged that one and it hit the sidewall with a sickening splat. Bob, what the hell? You squawked as you stepped to the side, out of range of his makeshift slingshot. He hesitated briefly before jumping to the side facing you. Too late, you noticed he had made slingshots in all four corners of the coffee table. And dang, he was a quick draw. This wet paper wad hit you in the neck.
I'm totally winning this fight. Tiny, you suck.
He was already loading another shot from his Tupperware container of wet toilet paper and water, completely oblivious to your irritation. Geez, how did he even move a full container of water around that was bigger than him? And fight? Oh, right. You did say you'd fight him, didn't you? You sighed as he continued to giggle manically and shot another toilet paper wad that missed you but hit and almost knocked over a lamp. He really did look like he was so pleased with himself. Oh man, you couldn't ruin his fun. Besides, you had to hand it to him, his little setup was pretty clever. You shook your head, fighting a smile as you reached to grab him before he could load up another shot. He blurred out of the way at the last second.
Too slow. Heh, you giant human sloth. You're no match for my quick shit.
Too bad he underestimated your literal years of practice cornering and quickly catching little critters trying to escape. Moving quickly, you snatched him up, only to have him literally slip out of your grasp. Oh my god, was he, like, covered in slime or something? Ugh, why? He laughed again, distancing himself from you as you probably made a horrified face, almost wiping your hands on your pants, but no, that would probably be a bear to get out. What the hell was it even? So you were left floundering with your hand held out in front of you while Bob retook his position, firing more wet wads at you. Bob, seriously, what the hell? You complained as you were once again bombarded with sloppy wet projectiles.
Admit defeat,
he yelled after you as you retreated to the kitchen to find something to wipe your hand off. Of course Bob had hidden the paper towels.
Admit it, I won,
he called from behind you as you went to wash your hand in the sink. Ugh, it wasn't washing off. Was this oil? Great, the soap was hidden too. And double great, now you had oil and water on your hands, no soap, and no towels. Ugh, you didn't want to wipe your hands on your scrubs. What the hell is this stuff? You shot a glare to Bob, who was standing and grinning, and yeah, you now noticed was covered in something clear.
Vegetable oil.
He wiped his forehead as some dripped down his skull. That was probably a bad call. How the hell are you going to get that stuff off of you and your clothes? Where are the paper towels and soap?
Admit you lost.
He smirked as he folded his arms. Fine, you win. Now tell me where...
Under the sink,
he answered smugly, grinning widely. Of course. You cleaned and dried your hands as Bob continued to silently gloat over his victory, though he was maybe starting to notice his predicament since he couldn't really sit or touch anything. At least it seemed he was being careful not to. Geez, how long had he stood around covered in oil waiting for you to get home? The thought made you laugh.
What?
He barked, now frowning a little. Right. You were probably supposed to be pouting over your loss to the mighty Bob or something. You should probably go take a shower. Seriously, how are we going to get that oil out of your clothes? And there's little greasy footprints all over the carpet.
Worth it. You should have seen your face.
Ugh, whatever. Go shower before you get oil everywhere. An hour later, you were sitting on the couch watching some cheesy horror flick as you finally heard the sink cut off in the bathroom. Yeah, he had figured out how to use the sink as a shower. And though you worried, he insisted the water stream wasn't too strong for him and he wouldn't drown. And he was too big to fit down the drain. Of course, he turned down any help you offered to at least turn on the spout for him. My dogs are barking.
Shut up! Shut up!
Whatever. We're going anyway. If there's barking in the background, I don't care anymore. We're continuing. An hour later, you were sitting on the couch watching some cheesy horror flick as you finally heard the sink cut off in the bathroom. No, I already read this. Damn it. He emerged in fresh clothes, rubbing at his skull with a washcloth and frowning. His skull was looking a little shiny.
Okay, so maybe oil was a bad idea.
He grumbled, and you covered your mouth, trying to stifle your laughter. He glared at you.
Shut up.
Idiot. You continued to laugh. He grumbled at you some more as he climbed onto the sofa, but his grumbles were replaced by a happy sound as you handed him his bowl, a half-cut Dixie cup, of beans, rice, and mustard. Haha, he always seemed to immediately cheer up when he ate. You liked seeing him happy. Though I admit, you got me. Definitely wasn't expecting all of that with the
Shut up, dogs! Shut up! I'm trying to record! You dogs have no respect for my art!
Though I admit you got me. Definitely wasn't expecting all that with the projectiles in the oil, you said as he hummed happily, eating his food. And besides the wet toilet paper and rubber bands I had to clean up, the apartment looks really nice. Good job cleaning, you praised as you surveyed his cleaning. There were...
Dogs, shut up!
There were a few circular streaks in the corner of the television. The table had some dust and crumbs pushed to one side of it. Well, he tried, and he was so proud of himself. It's about my level of cleaning. He was practically glowing, and no, not just because of the oil, as he smiled and hummed again. Suddenly, he paused mid-bite, his face scrunched in confusion.
Wait a minute.
He narrowed his eye sockets at you.
You're being too nice. What gives? What did you do?
Ha, whoops. He was right. You couldn't be too nice to him. You had to maintain your image, after all. He was staring at you with that blank expression of his again, waiting to see what you'd say. You blurted out the first thing you thought of. I'd spit in your food! You all stared at each other for a few more seconds. Then, while maintaining eye contact, he reached into his bowl, grabbed some food, and shoved it into his mouth. You wrinkled your nose at him. Ugh, what if I really had? You're gross. He chuckled and shrugged.
I've already eaten some of it anyway, and I'm still alive. Guess you're not as venomous as you thought, huh?
He smiled up at you, then went back to eating and watching the movie where some dude was being dragged under the bed screaming. Bob laughed gleefully as blood spewed up from under the mattress and gurgling screams. Ah! Psh, not venomous. Whatever. You caught his double meaning. Let him figure out you could maybe be kind of a softie. Sometimes. He'd probably already figured it out anyway. Just like you'd figured out he was a clingy sap. Ugh, whatever. Your phone cried out its dying beep, so you got up to go connect it to its charger in your room. You stopped short as you neared your nightstand. The top drawer was cracked open. That top drawer where you kept your journal. The thing you poured all of your negative thoughts and feelings into, to be closed away, forgotten. It had to stay closed away. This was how you functioned. If he read that, he'd know stuff you didn't want anyone to know. Ever. Stuff you wanted to forget about. That mask you so carefully created of a strong, good, got-it-together, functioning adult would slip. You stood, taking a deep breath to calm yourself. Bob must have noticed.
Hey, everything okay?
He called from the couch. You didn't respond. You couldn't. Had he read it? He hadn't, right? He was still treating you like he always did. Deep breaths.
Hey, Tiny?
He hopped off the couch, tentatively approaching you.
You're, kind of quiet all of a sudden.
Bob? You said, trying to keep your voice even. Did you read my journal? He must have sensed your mood as he tensed.
No, I didn't. I mean, I saw it in there, but I didn't read it. I was just looking for more rubber bands. I swear.
He was starting to sound a little nervous. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Slowly. Okay. He hadn't. He didn't know. Had you ever told him he couldn't read it? You knew he snooped in your stuff. Stay out of that drawer. Don't open it again. Ever. I'm not joking. Understand?
Yes, I won't.
He swallowed. At least that's what it looked like, and replied shakily. Another deep breath. Okay. No harm done. Ah, geez, Bob was frozen in place, staring at you with small pupils and sweating. What kind of face had you been making? I'm sorry, you sighed, rubbing at your face, like you could rub away whatever expression you had been giving him. You offered him a smile, and he relaxed a little, his eyelights returning to their usual size. We should probably get some sleep. Maybe we could go do something fun tomorrow, since I'm off work? Get out of the apartment?
Yeah, it's cool. That would be cool. Yeah.
He rubbed the back of his skull.
I'll, see you tomorrow then. Gonna head over to my blanket on the couch. Good night.
Night, you said, smiling as pleasantly as you could as he awkwardly shuffled away from the door you were holding. You closed it as soon as he was clear, really not feeling like having him sleep on your pillow that night,